Hey Nine, so I got a request to do number 2 on the more measurement and geometry review. So the question reads, in this diagram, angle E, so this is a sign for angle, and E, so that's this one, in the triangle BEC, so BEC, is a right angle. So then we know that angle E is 90 degrees. So I'm just going to write that down. It's going to write down some of the things we know. And then they want to know what is the sum of angles A and D. So there aren't actually any numbers in this triangle, but we do know how to set up a lot of equations for this triangle. And you can actually solve this question in like 3 or 4 different ways. So I'm going to do one of the ways, but just because you didn't do it the way that I'm doing it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. If you want to send me your work, I can take a look at it and let you know if your way is also correct. But the idea is that you want to set up some equations. And so what you're probably going to want to do is you might have to, depending on what you're doing, set up like 2 or 3 equations, and then you're going to rearrange. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So one of the things that we know is what the sum of the angles in a triangle are. So we know that B and C and 90 have to add up to 180. So let's go ahead and start with that one. So I have B plus C plus 90 is equal to 180 degrees. And so I'm just going to get rid of put the numbers on one side because I can. So I have B plus C is equal to 90. And so this we know because it's the sum of the angles of a triangle theorem. Okay, so now if we can figure out what B is and we can figure out what C is, or if we can figure out what B plus C is, then we can actually solve for this. So we can take a look at B and C and we can see if we can write them in other ways. Well, actually, what we do know is that A and B, the sum of those two angles, is going to be 180 degrees. So we know that A plus B is equal to 180. Well, I can rewrite this in terms of B because I have a B here. If I can rewrite this one, then I can substitute it in here. So I'm going to rewrite this as B is equal to 180 minus A, right? Because if I subtract A from both sides, I end up with B and 180 minus A. And this theorem here was the supplementary angle theorem. So my next step then is to say, well, what about here? Here I have another rule. I know that C and D also add up to 180. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to try that. So C plus D is equal to 180. Well, I need C up here, so I'm going to rewrite this one again. So I'm going to subtract D from both sides. And now I know that C is equal to 180 minus D. And this one was also the supplementary angle theorem. There's other theorems that I could have used, but I'm gonna see if I can get anywhere with these ones. So I know that B, right up here, is equal to 180 minus A, and I know that C is also equal to 180 minus D. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute those into that equation. So I have 180 minus A, right? So I'm just going to write equation 1 right here so you know where I went to, right? It's this one right here. So instead of B, I'm writing 180 minus A, and instead of C, I'm writing 180 minus D. And that is all going to be equal to 90. So let's go ahead and simplify that. So I have 180 minus A when I multiply my bracket by 1, and I have 180 minus D when I multiply my bracket by 1, and that equals 90. So 180 and 180 is 360, and then I'm subtracting A and I'm subtracting D, and that equals 90. Well, that's starting to look a lot better. I'm close. So I'm going to try to rearrange this and get a sum instead of a subtraction. So first I'm going to subtract the 360 from both sides. So now I have negative A subtract D is equal to negative 270. Well, I need a positive A and a positive D because it's asking me what is the sum of angles A and D. So right here it's saying when I add A and D, what is that equal to. So what I do know is I can now divide this side by -1, and I can divide this side by -1. So when you divide an expression by a -1, remember you have to do both the divisions. So -8 divided by -1 is positive a, and -d divided by -1 is positive d, and -270 divided by -1 is positive 270. So therefore, a plus d has to equal 270 degrees. Like I said, nines, there are many different ways to do this. You could have used the external angle rules where you know that d is equal to b plus 90 and solved that way. You also could have extended all the sides of the triangle and done the sum of the external angles have to add up to 360 and done it that way. So hope that helps.